George, we see a lot of volatility in airline stocks. Typically, is this particular bout of volatility something that might be sustained?
Well, I mean, we think going into 2019, this is a sign to us that airlines don't have pricing power. There's just too much capacity in their market. And so we do believe that's going to continue into 2019. We don't see pricing power coming back for the airlines right now. They're just adding too much capacity to the marketplace. And so I would suspect that you will see a bit of this volatility into the new year.
George, if the government shutdown carries on, will the TSA have problems, and will that ripple through into the airlines as well?
Yeah, it's a little bit precarious right now, right? Because, again, we think there's too much capacity coming to the marketplace. Airlines are adding too many seats to the marketplace. We see them growing sort of 4% in seats, which is above GDP growth. We'd like to see them much closer to GDP growth. And if we get to a situation here where the traveling public thinks going to the airport is going to be difficult to get through security, and that starts to knock down some of the demand, we think with that oversupply and a knockdown in demand, it could look even worse than it does now. And again, the story is they have no pricing power, so margins are flat to falling.
It's a particular tier of airlines today, George: American, United, Delta. Will this be the same for the lower tier airlines, for example?
Yeah, so I do think the trend will roll through the lower tier, the low-cost airlines. I think it gets sort of most acute at the larger, at the big full-service guys, United, American, Delta, because they just don't have cost structures that can match Spirit Airlines or Frontier Airlines. And so if we get into a bit of a pricing war, if they don't have pricing power, it gets really hard for the big three to retain profitability while they're discounting fares to try to keep market share. So I see it being a bit more acute up at the top of the grouping there, the big guys.
George, how easy is it to read the European market at the moment, given the fact that we have the Brexit story, which we were just discussing? We're trying to understand whether, for instance, IAG, which owns Iberia, and British Airways will have a problem flying its aircraft in the event of a hard Brexit. As you sit down and try and analyse the market right now and try and understand the profitability of these companies and the potential for that going forward, how much of a coin toss is it?
Well, so, I mean, Brexit is clearly a big variable in this whole thing. But even away from Brexit, when we look at the European market in 2019, we still see too much capacity coming to that market. I talked to you about 4% growth in the U.S. We see 5% in Europe, so even more. And so I would say if Brexit goes badly and it really does interrupt air travel, then you're in a bit of a bigger mess inside Europe. We kind of think they're going to find a way to work through those problems because we think it's in everybody's best interest to keep airplanes flying between the UK and the continent. But if it doesn't go well, it could be even worse. Again, we see sort of deteriorating profitability in Europe airlines as well in 2019.